Welcome to the Shared Practices podcast. I'm here joined today with Aditi Agarwal from Practice by Numbers. So welcome to the Shared Practices podcast, Aditi.
Thank you. Thanks, George. Good to see you. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, I had a great time on the Practice Pulse podcast, which is PBN's podcast. And so, I think we wanted to have Aditi on our show as well. And, I think that in the last episode, you were asking me a lot of questions. And now I would like to return the favor and be the one asking the questions and, learn from all that you've experienced in dentistry. So, for our listeners, so I think that the one thing I want to just introduce very early is, when I think of PBN, I do think of Rohit, right? And so I think that that's like traditionally, I've known PBN for many years. I'm coming up on more than 10 years of knowing and being with PBN in my orbit, right? I think I first became aware of you guys in 2015. So, you guys have been doing this for a really long time. And I think as I've gotten to know you guys better, I've learned that Aditi, you're a big figure in the company. And I think that people commonly attribute PBN with Rohit, but I actually think that you're also, just as big of a prominent figure in PBN. So maybe talk to us about, because I think that you're kind of more, maybe not as public facing as I acknowledge Rohit to be. So maybe kind of talk to me about your role in PBN, your journey with the company, because I think that people often probably don't appreciate, what you do for PBN.
Thanks, George. Well, I think I'm the backbone of Practice by Numbers. It started in my operatory, in my practice, in my startup practice. And, I'm a general dentist. For those who don't know, I have been in practice for 22 years, going on almost 23, and clinical practice. So I've done it all. I've been an associate. I started my own startup in 2010 in a depressed market. And it was honestly when I started my startup and I was wondering why I was not able to get patients to accept treatment, what was going on in my practice, and try to drill in deeper and understand what was happening, was kind of where Rohit and I started. Rohit is my husband and also co-founder of Practice by Numbers. And we started having this discussion as to, hey, what can I do to help my practice? Where can I find? He would always say, well, the answer is always in the data. I'm like, I don't even know what data you're talking about. And I was like, you know what, patient phone numbers? Like, I don't know, right? And so then we started looking at, the practice management software that I use is EagleSoft. And I was like, okay, let's start looking at reports. And man, looking at reports through EagleSoft, I mean, it was pages and pages of stuff. And I'm like, okay, I am not able to still understand what I'm missing here, right? And for me, it was what sort of catalyzed it was the case acceptance. My case acceptance was not that great, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And being the dentist that I am, I'd be like, "Oh, it's my fault, right? I'm not. I'm not. Maybe I'm not explaining it correctly, or what the whole issue is. I couldn't figure out." And it was after Rohit and I started looking at the data and seeing where they were rejecting, where were the roadblocks in that acceptance? Where was the patient not accepting treatment? What was happening? We realized that it was because I didn't have enough financing options. And how to get to that, even the problem, to the crux of the problem, was because we started filtering through all that data. He started creating spreadsheets, which I was like, dude, I'm a dentist, like I can't. These spreadsheets are making me googly eyed. And I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way. And he's like, okay, yes, I can make it more. I'm a visual person. Let's start with creating a dashboard. And that's when he created literally our first dashboard. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, it's like, for me, not having PBN is like practicing without loops.
1,000%.
I was like, wow, I can actually see what's going on, and I can see it for myself. I don't have to ask my CPA. I don't have to ask my accountant. I don't have to ask anybody else what is going on in my own practice. And that gave me a lot of power. It made me feel and it's not just, you it's a feeling, right? It makes you
Yeah.
feel very empowered. And when you feel empowered, you can start to really empower people around you. And that's when my practice started to shift. I mean, my success rate suddenly went from 50% to, I would say, 80-90% within a month or two. So it's pretty incredible what understanding data and then, implementing what needs to be fixed. After you implement it, the changes you can see. It's really incredible. And I've experienced it firsthand.
Well, there's this thing that occurs, right, where you have this frustration and you feel like you just keep trying and trying and trying and make no progress. And then when you have that aha moment
Yep.
and you're like, oh, this is the obstruction. I just need to do these things. There's this like relief and this like exhale that you feel. You're like, okay, I at least now know where to put my effort. And I think yeah, I mean, we are huge fans of practice by numbers for that exact reason, right? It helps us guide people and understand where are their bottlenecks, where are their constraints, and how do we help them past it. And so I want to, Aditi, so now like help me understand in the modern day, what does your setup look like? You have multiple offices, you're involved in PBN. Like, what does your 5-day a week work schedule look like? How many days are you clinical? What office do you go to both practices? Like, just kind of walk me through how you balance the roles that you have.
You know, I would say I don't like the word balance.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. It's because, I used to think life was a balancing act, but I think it's more a mindset shift, right? An
Yeah.
embracing act. And I found I am still currently clinical. I'm 2 days a week, clinical in my main practice and about a half a day in my satellite office. And I do a lot of the aligner therapy for both the offices. So that's all on me, and of course general dentistry as well for my main practice because I do have a lot of patients who still want to see me. So yep, so at least 2 days a week. And then the rest of the time, I work with my team at Practice by Numbers. I help them with our marketing and sales initiatives. I also do a lot of podcasting, webinars, and and also article writing, because I am a dentist, and so I intricately know our dental world, our clinical world, and also I love technology. So it's great for me to be able to guide my team at Practice by Numbers to understanding what us as dentists really need, and defining things for them in terms of, hey, if this product is coming up, how is it going to be used, what are the use case in a dental office, what pieces of it would work, what pieces won't work, what is important, what is not important, and what we need to focus on as a company as well. So I have very diverse roles, but I enjoy all of them because it keeps my brain going 100%. And but it truly is. It's a joy to be able to synergistically work in both parts of dentistry.
Yeah. So I guess the thing that I want to talk about first is AI.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about AI, and then I want that to kind of blend into a conversation about embracing technology. But with AI, I think that you know, um, you guys started the company pre the AI wave, right?
Mhm.
Like I think that AI was. I remember back in 2010, my dad's a computer scientist, and he was telling me, he's like, there's artificial intelligence is coming, and it's going to change the world. And I remember just thinking, like, I couldn't possibly comprehend what he was saying at that time. And now, 15 years later, I'm very clear on the fact that we have, probably one of the most world changing technologies of our lifetime that is emerging. And so, can you just talk to me about, at what point along the journey of PBN did you guys look at AI and say, we need to, really think about this and integrate it into what we're doing? Like, just kind of walk me through, like, how many years were you guys doing what you were doing with PBM before AI was like, okay, we can't ignore this anymore?
Absolutely. So, as you know, PBN has had its own journey, right? So right from its conception, from that first dashboard in let's call it 2015, and
When was that first dashboard actually?
that was, I think, in 2013.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember you guys were posting on Dental Town
Yeah.
about it before you launched, and that's how I found out about PBN. I found out when you guys were posting on Dental Town about PBN, and I remember you guys saying like this is for dentists, and that's something that you've always brought to the ethos. So yeah, okay. So, but you guys launched the product officially in 2015.
In 2015, yes.
Okay.
We were playing with it, for a couple of years, just wondering what we're doing. And then it was after we realized that, oh my gosh, there really isn't anything out there that is doing what we're doing for dentists specifically. And that's when we decided, okay, let's jump in and do this. We're going to try it and see where it takes us. But I'm so glad we did.
Yeah. So what year did AI start to come on the radar?
So I would say, started to come in the radar of 21, 22 timeframe. Once we started to pivot in 2020 with adding all the rest of the features, along with analytics, that's when we started understanding that analytics needed to be able to use analytics in a smart way. We needed to put in AI, because asking the questions helps to get the answers easier. And that's what doing or embracing AI does. And we started to actually inbuilt or built in to our system. So like we have operations AI that's already built into our analytics suite, that you can asking the questions will get you those right answers in a much faster and a much more reliable way. So AI is built in nowadays, of course, and there's so many things they talk about call AI with the phone systems, right? And I mean, the amount of insights you get with sentiment analysis, with your call transcription, and understanding what the patient said, what is their pain point. It helps you not only train your teams, it also helps motivate the teams that are doing a good job. So, that's one place where AI is definitely, it's a place that's actually visible, right? There's visible
Yeah.
AI and then there's invisible AI. Now, what are the invisible AIs, right? There's things like revenue finders in practice by numbers, right? Understanding, okay, we can really drill down the revenue finder you by asking the questions. For example, you want to call or send a custom campaign to a patient who has not had or come in for their crown treatment in the past 6 months, overdue crown treatment. You can really just ask the AI within Practice by Numbers to create a custom list for you, saying that, hey, who were the patients that didn't come in the past 6 months to get their D2740 done?
Yeah.
And it will create this list. And using that list, then you can create a custom campaign within Practice by Numbers. So this is like, the AI helps you to generate intelligent lists that you don't have to then go in and look for, and then send out campaigns based on that. We have things coming out with using AI where now we can send a statement right to a patient. We do that already, where you can attach a statement and send it out to a patient for the remaining balance. But now with AI, we're going to explain what that remaining balance is coming from in that ledger. Now imagine that you're
Yeah.
removing barriers for the patient, because you're giving them more tools to understand what's going on in their own oral health, which is very, very powerful. I mean, not to mention the clinical part of AI. As you and I both know, there's Pearl and Overjet that is out there reading x-rays and, uh, acting as a second pair of eyes for many dentists, who are now able to, communicate with the patients better, and also being able to essentially not miss things, right? Because that can happen. Many of us are running pretty busy practices and can get very chaotic. So having these, I would say AI is a currently a co-pilot, and we shouldn't be threatened by it. We should learn how to harness its power. Like anything else, right? Like when the internet came out, everybody was like, oh my God, it's going to break the world. But it didn't, right?
Yeah.
It enhanced it, it made things better. And that's what this next generation of AI is, right? Now we have things like Scribe, the dental scribe that's coming out, or AI is voice assisted perio charting. These are all AI enhancements of current workflows that are already there. They're not replacing the workflow, they're enhancing it. They're making things more efficient. They're making, the time of doing an exam, shrinking that time so you can essentially do more work, see more patients if you needed to, or go home if you need to
Yeah, right.
earlier. Get some of your own personal time back. So, there's so many things that AI is coming in clinical dentistry with the robot assisted implant placement.
Yeah, those are cool.
Isn't that cool? That is really cool. And then I was looking at some of the labs out there that are using AI now for the machine learning part of AI to when you scan a tooth for a crown, with the intraoral scanner, that scan will use machine learning to read the whole prep and give you, say, if there are undercuts or if there's bulky areas, it'll tell you in real time that, hey, you need to adjust your prep in this area or that area to get that perfect right then and there. So there's no back and forth. That's cutting back on all the back and forth that's going to happen. So imagine if you're going to get an ideal prep right from the get go.
Yeah.
I mean, how much time, energy, and money that saves. It's incredible. So I'm so excited. I can barely hold on to the excitement.
Yeah, and so I think that, the common thing that dentists and the dental industry is wondering is what's going to change. And also, I think people are like, okay, AI is great. And I'm using ChatGPT to write a job description, or I'm using ChatGPT to create an SOP or something like that, right? I think that's like kind of the introductory level that we're at right now.
Right.
And I think people are asking the question, like, when is it going to really impact my practice in a meaningful way? And I think the thing that I've been saying for a while, and it sounds like you're saying something similar, is that there's not one application that is going to be like, aha, this is the silver bullet that everything is better and different with AI. It's all of the little workflows that we do throughout the practice, right? Like, like you're talking about perio charting, scribing notes, all of these different things that we do. There's just going to be an enhanced way of doing things that require less human time. And like, that's kind of the big thing that's going to change is it's not one thing. It really is going to touch everything, right? There's like very few things that are going to remain untouched with AI. And I think it's just a matter of time for people to solve problems in a new way. So I'm just curious, is that kind of your read on it as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's all about changing. It has multiple touch points,
Yeah.
and it is actually harmonizing workflow, really, because now we have right from the AI can be as involved or not involved in your practice as you want it. And it can start with that first phone call, right?
Yeah.
With that patient, right from that first phone call all the way to that prep design, right? So you can literally make it as much as you want or you don't want it. But I would say if you got the whole enchilada, it would actually make a huge difference in your practice. Because, hey, if you just got the clinical part, that's great. But now you have the clinical part. What if, say, for example, you have uh, you get Overjet or Pearl or one of those companies that helps you read those X-rays, and great. Now that you have that diagnosis, now that you have patient buy-in, now who's going to create those customized lists for you to remind those patients that, hey, you still have that treatment that needs to be scheduled, right? Sure, we talked about it. I know you understand it, but now let's remove the next barrier. Let's move on. So it flows into the whole non-clinical part of, those touch points, the patient engagement keeping them, how are you going to stand out in 2026 as the best dentist, right, in your area? It is by, it, are you doing special dentistry? Sure, that's one way, right? Creating a niche in your dental community. Or it is by becoming that practice that nobody can forget.
Well, and I think the thing that's, I think the thing that people are wondering is they're wondering, like, I think that it's for every one of these use cases that we've discussed, the technology is at a different stage, right? In some, like Pearl, I would call like advanced compared to, like, I think some of the note taking ones that listen to the appointment and put the notes into the practice management system, those are maybe some on the introductory level, and they're still kind of getting, so like, I guess, where do you, like, what's your time horizon where you feel like, because there's like the early users who are willing to deal with the bugs and the frustration and the lack of smooth user experience. But then there are the masses who kind of need things to be a little bit more repeatable and straightforward before they're going to be able to adopt. So, like, where do you think we are as a technology in our industry along that continuum of like early versus like we're going to get mass adoption?
We're evolving. The technology is evolving.
Yeah,
And guess
fast.
what? Technology is evolving, dentistry is evolving. Now imagine trying to put two things that are actually up leveling together. There
Yeah.
is going to be things that are going to not work. Okay. It's going to happen. Whenever things up level, things change. There's always change management that is hard. Right.
Yeah.
And I think us as leaders in our practices, we need to understand that change management is going to be a thing. It's
Yes.
something that we're going to have to deal with. That's something that we're going to have to understand, and also something that we're going to have to communicate, not just with our teams. That's for sure, but also with our patients. And the funny thing is, you would think that patients are not interested in people who adopt technology too fast. But you'll be surprised, and I honestly, I have been surprised in all my travels in the past couple of years, going to different meetings, is the technology adoption and the technology understanding that the masses have, our patients have, is way more than we think, right? And they are actually excited to adopt technology. We just have to show them the way, right? And to answer your question, when is it going to happen? When is that sweet spot? Clinical is getting there. It's definitely things, the workflows are changing, and that's going to take a little bit longer because clinical needs, um it's like when you first learn how to use a scanner, right? There is a learning curve to it. Non-clinical though, it's plug and play, really. So it's like that part is, it's very much ready. The phone part, the virtual assistants, the chat bots, those are still coming. Those are only going to get better and better. But the non-clinical part that does not require a virtual assistant, for example, that is just finding things easier, quicker. Those kind of things can be adopted right now.
Yeah. So I have something that you said that I have to repeat, even though, it's kind of a little bit ago now, is you think about it, right? Your patients, they all use Amazon, a lot of them, right? And it's like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, you call Amazon and you get customer support, you get to talk to a human. Now you do the chat, you call, you're talking to the AI bot,
Yeah.
right? And so I think the thing that we need to think about is our patients aren't living in a bubble. They're living in the evolving world of AI, so it's like, if all of the places that our patients are calling one by one slowly begin to adopt technology more, and they're speaking to AI bots more, and they're chatting with AI chatbots more, then all of a sudden it's like every year that passes, the consumers and our patients are more receptive to technology because all of the businesses that they interface with in their rest of their lives are also adopting technology. And so it's like, I think that we have this like movement towards technology that's occurring across the entire country and the world that makes it so that if we as dentists embrace technology in our practices, that's a behavior that more and more our patients are going to be get more and more used to because of the different businesses that they interface with in their life. So I say that to say, okay, so now let's say a dentist is like, all right, I'm 25 minutes into this episode, I'm 100% in, and Aditi, you said something, I'm going to put you on the spot where you're like, the
Great.
non-clinical workflows are ready. So like, okay, they're like, okay, but I don't see that. I don't know what they are, right? So like maybe just like list them off. Like what is ready right now for dentists to start using in their practices?
I mean, I can speak to practice by numbers, right? We have
Yeah.
operations AI built in our analytics suite, right?
I actually pulled it up when you said that, and I went to go get it. Yeah, so the little thing you click on in the corner, the
Yes,
PBN AI bot, and
yes,
then you can like ask it questions. Yeah, so it's exactly what you said. It's right there, just kind of on the little bottom right of the screen.
yes, exactly. And if you can ask it questions and it will give you intelligent answers. So you don't have to go looking for it. I mean, your team doesn't have to go looking for it. Revenue IQ, finding revenue within your practice. Check it out. I mean, it's incredible. It really is incredible. Like, even with insurance, you can find out in your asking the question, hey, which insurance is my lowest paying fee for D1110?
Yeah, and
I
then they'll
mean,
just tell you.
it'll just tell you. And then you're not going through all your lists of insurance companies and be like, okay, go on this one bandwagon and say, I'm going to drop this insurance company because I think they don't pay me enough for a pro fee. And I'm like, have you even looked? Like, have you
Yeah.
checked? Have you asked the question? Let the AI help you find the answer before you make a decision. So it'll really help you make decisions.
So we have a like a large language model
Yeah.
built into PBN
Yeah.
that allows you to ask questions and get accurate data regarding the information within your practice management system.
Exactly.
So I feel like check, I got that one. So
Exactly.
now what else is there, right? Like, kind of help me out for our audience here. Like, they can ask questions, they can get those insights, but then what else can they do, that's already there for them on the non-clinical side?
So then also creating those campaigns, the custom campaigns through the revenue finder, first figuring out what you want to do in terms of, like I said, your treatment, and then sending those campaigns out. It can be done through PBN also, and using the AI to find those opportunities for you. And say you went and did a new implant course, right? Now you want to find those patients who have a missing tooth that you have treatment planned or put into the chart God knows when, right? And
Yeah.
I want to create a campaign to send out an email to these patients saying that, hey, you've got a missing tooth. I'm placing implants now. Obviously, you're not going to say that, but
Yeah.
okay, I want to get this guy or this patient in for a consult to get an implant. So you can create these customized lists and send them out. So, I mean, that's the other piece of it, right? So these things are already there that you can just use. And not to mention now with our phones, the call AI part of it, right? The call transcription part of it. And all of it writes back into the practice management system, which is huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to go looking for who said he said what. Call sentiment analysis. I get that all the time. Like, how did that new patient interact with my team member? What they said was in line with the practice ethos, or was it in line with what that patient needed to understand or hear about my practice? Right? I use that as training all the time in my office, right? In my offices. And also, I use that as team motivation. Like if somebody has done a great job with a patient on a phone call, right? I can, on a morning huddle, I'll call out that team member and say, this person did a great job with this phone call. and or I can also create bonus structures based on everybody has an individual KPI. So
Yeah.
the patient intake person has a KPI, right? That this is their performance indicator. And if they reach past it, they get a bonus.
Yeah.
So how does it work? I can't even tell you. I'm so excited. It works so beautifully because you can now attach a number or a metric to a performance versus rather pulling things out of the air. And
Yeah.
then nobody's fighting over production and collection,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that the one thing that I want to add to what you're saying is if you're listening to this, there's really two things that you could go. You could say, okay, I don't have any pain points at the moment. I just want to, it's like one of those things that you just need to get the ball rolling. You need to start using it. And then and then the momentum picks up and you use it more. And then you have another use case, right? So it's like sometimes the best thing to do is just have some level of action. Just like use it in the ways that it's there already.
Yeah.
And then the second school of thought is, okay, well, like I have a constraint. So like, for example, there's a buddy that I know and, he has a concern with hygienists note-taking time, right? It's like at the end of the day, they're going to stay for a long period of time putting in all their clinical notes. And it's like, that's a bit of a pain point because, it takes a long time and, there's a high hourly cost. There's all these things that are wrong with that situation. And then you say, okay, well, can AI solve this problem? Right? So it's like sort of training yourself to have a problem, identify your problem, and then ask the next question, can AI solve this problem? And then maybe that is the because I like, Aditi, I like to help people with the fact that like there's 10 to 15 different things you could do right now. So how do you pick one? And so it's like pick one where the problem is. And so it's like if you have this pain point in your practice on an existing basis, then address that pain point with AI and try to get a technologically enabled solution that frees up time, solves your problem, and then now you've had this rewarding experience where then you're more likely to dive in again. And so I kind of want to transition to the next topic, which is, I guess, before we even get into how to embrace technology, um, I would guess that you are of the mindset that embracing technology will become a differentiator in private practice, right? I think that like when I think of private practice, I think of the fact that year over year, it's getting more competitive. I think we can call it that and say that without sounding doom and gloom. It's just the reality of the fact that private practice owners need to be more intentional now than they were 10 years ago to do well. And so, like, what role does embracing technology have for practices in the next 10 years, for example, in private practice? Like, is that going to be a differentiator between the successful dentists and the dentists who are still not as successful as they'd want to be? Is the ability to embrace technology?
Absolutely, absolutely. As a private practice owner myself, I can tell you that it's definitely the landscape is changing. And in order to stand out, not only do you have to be obviously knowledgeable and good in dentistry, but you need to be able to stand out against the competition, right? Whether it is your competition or the practice down the road, with more and more not private practices opening up, those people are able to embrace technology, right? They are not able to, they are embracing technology because they need the technology to help them run a unified business.
Yep.
Without that technology, they can't actually do their business. And because that's how they're running it as a business. As a private practice owner with skin and emotion and a lot of other things in the game, right? You have to understand that what you're up against. When you have to understand who are you up against, what are they using? And, I'll tell you one thing, dentistry is a relationship based practice. I've been in it for over 20 years. Trust me, I know. And private practice still has a place in today's world. And the only main difference is that we need to be able to offer the same things that the practice down the street that is not private offers, but with a personalized touch.
Yeah.
And that's where our superpower is. And it's definitely there. And I firmly believe in it that to be a superpower, You need your personal touch, but you also need to embrace that technology because they are already used to it coming from that practice down the street.
And I think that, I can speak on someone who's riding both sides of the fence. Like we have a DSO, and also at the same time, like I spend a lot of my time helping private practicing dentists. And so it's like, I think that I've seen, I think the future of our industry is a mix of both. And I think that there's a symbiotic, like, the DSO is going to exist because there's a group of dentists that want to work with a DSO, want to align themselves that way. And then private practice will continue to exist because there's patients and dentists that want to remain autonomous and private and want to have that relationship component. And private practice is unique in the sense that you go to the owner for your clinical dentistry who owns the practice. Like that is a unique element of it. And so I think that to think that they both will not exist long term is just not, they will both exist.
Yes.
And I think that, what technology does is it allows the private practicing dentist to access the same resources that, and I think that's what like the evolution in our industry has been, is essentially taking the things that DSOs who are large and sophisticated have and providing an effective, affordable solution to a private practicing dentist for that same benefit. And I think that, technology is the great equalizer in so many different ways,
Yes.
right? It takes something that was proprietary and it makes it commonplace. And so I think that, that's sort of the role that serves. And then, I guess Aditi, you've watched firsthand for 10 years dentists attempting to embrace technology with PBN. So can you just like kind of share with us the unique perspective that you have in that role of like, what is it like watching thousands of dentists over the years attempt to embrace technology with practice by numbers? Like, what are the pitfalls? How do they do overall? Like maybe, and you have a skewed subset because the people who come to PBN are inherently more technologically interested than the general dentist as a mass. But like, just curious to hear your thoughts, right? Because I'm sure you have, a lot of insight.
Well, to be fair, it's incredible. And I will say that there are definitely the early adopters, right, who love technology. And, those are the early adopters at PBN because they were like, wow, I can do this. This is going to make my life so much easier. And, they have fear, but they're able to get over that fear faster, right? Some people are easily adaptive to change versus others. And now, as we are in 2025, 2026, we are seeing that technology is becoming more and more essential, right? As the number of DSOs increase, and we understand that they need those technologies to be able to operate consistently. I'm seeing that more and more private practices are understanding that it is important to slowly start to adopt some piece of technology, right? I would say start with a revenue finder, right? You really want to understand how to get those patients in that are already in your office, how to get them back scheduled in. Start with that. That's the simplest and most important thing in any demo practice, right? It's just the revenue that's literally sitting in your practice, and start do implementing that. But like you said, it's been challenging. It's going to continue to be a challenge, but I think as some of our newer graduates come up and, get more of a foothold in dentistry, as they say, right? 20 years is a generation. And I'm sitting at that early cusp of that generation shift. We're going to see a lot more adoption of technology in dentistry. And I'm super excited to see that.
So something that you talked about earlier, I want to bring up now because I think the thing that you said, and I think if anyone knows of shared practices, they're going to think of a few things that we say very commonly are very dogmatic about. And one of the things that we're very dogmatic about is team led, where, we want our success and our practice's success to be as a function of a team performing well rather than an owner muscling their way to success, which I think is quite common in dentistry. And so, I think that I would argue the same thing is important for technology adoption. And it's interesting, in our little pre-show discussion, you talked about how the most successful dentists use their teams to drive technological adoption. And so, talk to us about that. How does a dentist do that? What does that look like? Dentists listening, they need tangible explanation so that they can really understand what it looks like in their practice. So help us understand team driving technological adoption. What does that look like?
Absolutely. So, after all, these front office tasks that we task, our team is going to lead it, and making them understand that how it benefits the practice. You need to sit down and do team training. Whenever you get any kind of technology, whether it's clinical or non-clinical, you need to train your team. Once they understand that how it's going to benefit them, because it's going to reduce their busy work, not yours, theirs.
Yeah.
And if they understand how they don't have to spend so much time scanning things or creating tasks or calling patients, they're going to be like, wow, I can actually do this with reducing my headache, my time, trying to systemize things. And that is really, really powerful. You know, team members want to stay in healthy work environments.
Yeah.
This is providing a healthy work environment because you are reducing the stress that they have with doing the 50,000 things that they're doing in a day, right? And now they can focus on the patients in front of them, and they leave their jobs feeling a lot more fulfilled. So it's really, really key to train your teams on how to use the technology that you embrace. And you have to give it time, both for your team as well as for the technology, because adoption is not overnight.
Hey everyone, you just listened to the interview that I had with Aditi from Practice by Numbers. It just got cut off a little bit at the end there, and so I just kind of wanted to put some closing remarks and close the episode properly with an outro. And so, in this episode, we talked a lot about technology. We talked a lot about embracing technology, AI, what PBN can do, and that team-driven approach to technological adoption in your practice, and how in private practice, the future of private practice is going to really cater to those individuals who can sort of be ahead on this technological wave. And so I encourage all of you to really make a habit about introducing technology into your practice. And, I left this interview really fired up. And I recorded a solo Ask George episode that's going to air next week. That's going to be my thoughts and breakdown after this interview, because I was just full of ideas. And I thought Aditi was excellent to talk to. I think that she spoke very well, and Practice by Numbers has been a company I've looked up to for a really long time. And so, I went ahead and recorded another episode that you guys will be listening to next week, following this interview with my thoughts, because there was just so much that I had going on mentally after this interview that I just had to have another episode where I got to talk about it. And so you guys will listen to that next week. But I appreciate you coming to this episode. I appreciate you guys listening. And once again, thank you for supporting the Shared Practices podcast. So we've wrapped up another episode of the Shared Practices podcast, and I look forward to having you guys come back next week to hear my thoughts on this episode that will air today with Aditi.
Resonate.